These changes to local radio have caused, well, frankly, a right shitstorm for the BBC, haven't they? Hi, it's me again. And I didn't think it was going to cause that much of a problem. And I bet the BBC didn't think it was going to cause that much of a problem. The changes to local radio. But I think the thing that I forgot and the BBC forgot is that one of the excuses for having a television licence, one of the good things that comes about from having it, is local radio, because no one else can do it. The commercials tried, and then they got all amalgamated, didn't they? And Heart took over and all of that. But a lot of people love local radio, BBC local radio, more than I thought. And it really has caused a bit of a storm for them. So I've got two little stories I thought we could talk about today, because the BBC have got to do something about this. I mean, they're making all these cuts, and they're not making as many cuts to local radio as you would imagine, but it's still caused all of this. But then I talked about a story this week where they appointed 5 new assistant commissioners. Good money. Why? Why? You're putting your money in the wrong place. You're not keeping the people happy. You're keeping your company happy and making jobs for your mates. You're not serving the people. And part of the TV licence fee charter is to serve the people. Isn't it? I don't know. Let's have a look. This one is an open letter to the Director General of the BBC from Coventry City Council. We are writing to you to express our deep concern at the announced cuts to local radio services by the BBC. Coventry, like many cities across the UK, blah, blah, blah. It goes on a bit. But he does go on to say, we believe these proposed cuts will have a serious and terrible effect on the people of Coventry. With local programming only available between the hours of 6 a.m. and 2 p.m, you are denying countless people access to that service. Yeah, I didn't understand that. Two of the biggest shows, two of the biggest listenership periods on local radio are the two drive time shows, morning and evening. But you're going to have your morning drive time show with your morning traffic and all that, but the evening one's going to be shared, which means the traffic report is going to be either not relevant to you or will go on for bloody ever, cutting out the music or the chat that you're trying to get interested in. So I don't understand that either. But Coventry's biggest problem is that it's jealous. We do not see why we should be treated the same as other major cities, such as our neighbours Birmingham, which will not see any changes to BBC local radio under these proposals. We want and need our local stations to be exactly that, local. So in other words, Coventry's a bit cross because it's getting the cuts and some of the bigger cities aren't getting the cuts. But it goes deeper than that because of this headline, look. BBC bosses to be questioned by MPs over proposed cuts to local radio. Well, that's all right then, that's that problem sorted, isn't it? The MPs will sort that right out. They're called the BBC and they're going to have a nice chat. And they're going, oh no, hang on, they're MPs. I forgot, I've got to stop doing that. Yeah, MPs. When was the last time MPs sorted anything out? That is ridiculous, isn't it? What are the MPs going to do? What are they going to do apart from get drunk and claim some expenses? Nothing. That's what they're going to do. How many parliamentary committees have we had about the BBC? How many of those petitions to stop the TV licence fee have gone through to the chat stage? There's been a few. What happened with that? Nothing. All they did was defend the BBC. They wouldn't dare say anything bad about the BBC because of probably the amount of dirt the BBC's got on them and swallows to keep its TV licence fee. You know, each hand's feeding each other, innit? Rodri Taufan-Davies, Director of BBC Nations, and Jason Horton, Director of BBC England, will face questions after the corporation said it plans for stations to share more content and broadcast less programming unique to their area. The Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport Committee will also examine the BBC's wider strategy for delivering services locally for licence fee payers. So rather than read the whole thing, I'm going to tell you what will happen at this meeting with BBC bosses. Nothing. Nothing will happen. The BBC will put it through, and I don't care if the BBC change the local radio. It doesn't bother me. I listen to a little bit on the way to work in the morning. I don't listen to it at home, so on the way home. So none of this affects me whatsoever. I don't care. The reason it's interesting to me is because so many people defend the BBC for several reasons, and one of those reasons is its local radio. And if it really damages that, that's less reasons for people to defend the BBC and paying the licence fee. It's interesting. It is interesting. And I think this is going to damage the BBC more than they thought. More than they thought. They should have cut other stuff. I know local radio must be really expensive to have. They've got these buildings all around the country with endless amounts of staff and endless amounts of equipment in them. I get it. That's how Heart is successful. It bought up local radio stations, didn't it? And amalgamated them all into one and made more money. And I get it. That's a good way to make more money. But the BBC they're not commercial. They don't need to make the money. They need to serve the people. But they've also got to cut costs. So it's got to be tricky for the BBC. It's got to be tricky for the BBC. But I think they're cutting the wrong thing here, and there's going to be a lot of comeback on this one. And I think it's going to damage their chances of keeping the licence fee in the future. Good, eh? What do you reckon about this then? I mean, it doesn't bother me that much. Does it bother you? Do you listen to a bit of BBC local radio? So I don't mind listening to it a bit on the way to work in the morning. I can't remember the name of the bird that presents it. BBC Essex in the morning. I only have like a 20-minute commute and I chuck it on. I don't have it on the way back, as I say. But it's not going to bother me, but it is going to bother a lot of people. More people than I thought. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, because that way, hopefully, I'll see you in another video again, won't I? Ta-da!